Here's what I decided to do. I've known both Tony Woods and Luke Duncan for quite a while here at the church. Tony is really gifted in the area of autoimmune disease, fasting, detox, hormone levels. He actually was studying to be a doctor and then decided that wasn't God's direction. And then Luke has a passion for like what they call kinesiology. It's a movement of the body, the study of the body. And it's interesting, movement is medicine. That's what his he loves that fact that when you move, like if you can just even do squats at home, some push-ups or things, moving the body, you're getting it moving. We weren't designed to be sedentary. We were actually designed to move and do things. And when we're sitting all day, the body's degrading in that area as well. So we're going to open up for Q&A. You don't have to necessarily say, unless you want to say, Luke, I have a question for you on this side. Tony on this side or Shane in the middle, they know more than I do on those specific fields. And then if I know, have some input, I'll chime in as well. But so go ahead and stand in line behind Morgan, and you can ask the next question. But she had a good one that she asked me yesterday or 2 days ago, and I wanted her to bring it up first. So with that, we'll go ahead.
I don't remember if this is the one that you're thinking of, but could you guys just speak to the fact that, I know a lot of people are like hypoglycemic, and so when you talk about fasting or not eating every 3 hours and your blood sugar drops, you start to shake, almost pass out. What's the cause for that, and is there a way to fix that?
And Tony, I thought you had a good analogy on the burners.
Sure.
That was good.
We have different systems in place to produce energy. And the body has a process of something called gluconeogenesis, which is producing its own glucose. And it does that through proteins. And the body's abundant in proteins. So the key is if you look at the body, picture a 4-burner stove. And you've got 3 burners that are pretty much on all the time. And this is a catabolic state. So the body's consistently building. It's in an anabolic state. So it's anabolizing and it's building. And the main source for that is glucose. The problem is these other 2 burners over here and this one in the back never gets used because we're consistently feeding it glucose and carbohydrates and it breaks it down. So these other 2 burners, once you shut this one off, and someone who's hypoglycemic, they have to ease into it because of the fact that their body's not used to that process. So they have to gradually move into it, and then they can start those burners up and get them going. But the key is just doing it gradually so they don't get such a abrupt shaking and, the dizziness and stuff like that, or cold sweats. So that's the best way to do it, is just kind of lower your carbohydrate intake, increase your fats, increase your proteins, and then move into it.
And I actually was diagnosed with that, and I could never fast. If I didn't go to the gym, you ever see people fall over at the gym? I used to see it every other week. Just fall off their machine. Boom, boom, boom. Low blood sugar. A lot of it is because, like Tony said, we're eating just too much carbohydrates. We're eating too much. So when you don't have that immediate sugar rush, your body starts to crave it, and it needs it. And that's why I was told I can never fast. But as you clean up the diet, the body adjusts in this area. So the blood sugar levels adjust. And you're not, going 3 hours, I used to get shaky. And I feel like I'm going to pass out. And then 6 hours, and then it turned into a day. And so the body starts to change. That's why he said, you got to be careful. You don't just go cold turkey. What I tell people, if you got a sugar addiction, you cut half, and then half, and then half, and then half, and half. Coffee, 3 cups a day, go to 2, go to 1.5, go to 1, go to half, and you avoid a lot of the withdrawals, and the body just because we weren't designed to consume all this stuff. And so we have an addiction problem on our hands. Is what's happening too. So go into it slowly, and your body, as you feed it naturally, it can begin to process the sugars better, not go through those ups and downs and highs and lows. Next question, Dr. Rita.
I'm insulin resistant. I was just diagnosed that, and I really don't know what to do about that. And also, I had done the Master Cleanse. You know what that is? The
lemonade and maple syrup? Or is that what
it's maple syrup,
cayenne pepper,
lemons, cayenne pepper, and water. And then I got really lightheaded, and I have to use my brain at work a lot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to function. How do those go hand in hand, or do they?
Well, I'll say briefly, and then maybe Luke and Tony. The master cleanse and all these different things, the concept is the maple syrup keeps your blood sugar levels somewhat elevated, and the lemon and the cayenne is a very good detoxing agent, and you're not having anything else to eat, so the fasting aspect of it. So that's why you probably felt lightheaded, because did you just go immediately, well, you don't have to answer, but some people just start that fast right away without without easing into it. So that's why many of us don't fast. That's why we can't complete a fast, because we go from a very toxic environment and then we try to just stop it all. Have a heroin, it's like a heroin addict coming off, or crystal meth, or cocaine. There's no difference. There's no difference. Actually, sugar runs along the same biochemical ramps in your mind or your brain as the same as opiates or some of the narcotics, heroin, LSD, and different things. It's the same biochemical pathway. So coming off is pretty drastic. But on the insulin resistant, Tony might know more, Luke even more on I know moving. Are you moving a lot? You know?
Well, I'm sitting a lot at work, and it's very difficult for me to sit as much as I do. I'll do stretches because I'm constantly writing reports.
Okay.
And with the insulin resistance, like the watermelon out there, that's like eating a big cheeseburger.
Right.
For me, I think. I don't know what the research says about that, but I know when I eat watermelon or any fruit except for maybe strawberries or berries, there's a lot of carbohydrates for my body. I don't know how my body processes it, and it's like toxic for me.
Right.
So, and I don't understand all of this. So.
You have any thoughts, Luke?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Number one, the human metabolism thrives on consistency. So I'll say, just as a general statement here too, that if you find a book and it's from a best-selling author and it says do this, stay away from it, generally speaking, because it's usually a fad and it's trying to sell money and things like that. The things that work with regards to physical change consistently and predictably are not marketable. You eat a little bit less, or you move more to the effect that you are burning off more energy than you would be consuming on a daily basis, so that at the end of the day, there's a net decrease in the amount of energy that you're getting, and that energy is represented through calories. With respect to insulin resistance specifically, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a precondition to diabetes. If you hear of somebody say, I'm pre-diabetic, that means you're insulin resistant. Insulin resistance is very prevalent in the United States. Any of the countries that are fighting obesity, insulin resistance is a big problem. And usually what happens is you have too much free fatty acids in the bloodstream, and basically what they do is they gunk up. If you think of, like, the analogy I've heard before is if you have a lock, you try to put a key in it.
Can I stop you for a second? Free fatty acid.
Okay.
Okay, I'm mostly vegetarian. So
right.
Where's that coming from?
It's coming from your subcutaneous fat. You could not eat any fat and your body would still make fat.
Okay.
So, because your body will break those foods down, and then it will build in other nutrients. So even people that are absolutely lean, shredded on steroids and stuff still probably have 5,000 calories of fat on their body. Your body's going to make it, because if you didn't have it, you would die. It's just a necessary prerequisite to being human. You can have more or less, but at the end of the day, you're going to have some fat on your body. So because of that, free fatty acids in your bloodstream, if you have too much of them, what happens is they'll gunk up your insulin receptor sites on your cells. And so if you imagine the key in the lock analogy, stick a bunch of bubble gum in that lock and then try to open the door. It's going to go, and the key's not going to work anymore. So what happens is your body's response to that is we have to drive more insulin into there to try to bust through all the gunk that's in your insulin receptor sites. And so that is a self-defeating process where the body continually produces more and more insulin to the point where now you're diabetic. Shane was talking about type 2 diabetes during his presentation. That's effectively what it is. So there's two things you can do to mitigate that. Number one, reduce your energy intake. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about up here, the solution for that comes underneath reducing your energy intake. That doesn't mean starve yourself, but it does mean put yourself in a overall deficit. And when I say overall, I mean think of weeks or months or even years. It doesn't have to be every single day you're in a deficit, but over the long term you are in a deficit because that's going to move things around in your body and it's going to move nutrients around. The other thing too is to move more. We're a highly sedentary society, and when we do this all the time, we shut off pathways with respect to something called nutrient partitioning. Nutrient partitioning refers to the process of what your food gets turned into when you eat it. So if you eat X amount of food, your body's going to turn it into either future muscle synthesizing protein. It'll store it away as energy, either local glycogen storage in the muscle or in the liver, or it's going to turn it into body fat. People that are sedentary have very poor nutrient partitioning abilities because of the pathways are not unlocked with respect to things like capillary density and things like that. So those nutrients don't get moved around, they stay in the bloodstream, they don't get used, they cause insulin overproduction, they get stored away as body fat. So by moving more, you will unlock nutrient partitioning pathways to break your food down in a healthier, more sustainable way and get more out of it. Now that sounds like a lot of big words and everything. At the end of the day, what does that look like? Go for a mile walk. If you've never walked before, go walk a mile. A lot of people think that with respect to exercise or movement and stuff, I gotta be Michael Jordan yesterday. No, you don't. If you've never walked before, walking is enough for you. If you've never run before, don't start running. You're going to screw your knees up and you're going to screw your back up because you don't know how to do it properly. And if you're like a lot of people in this country, you probably have too much weight on your body and you're going to beat your joints up. Start with walking. Oh, walking's too easy. Have you done it? If you're not doing it, it's not too easy. And if it is too easy, walk uphill. You know, if you look at a lot of those guys that are on the covers of magazines, and I will say, watch out for idolatry when you're doing all this, but the way that all those guys on the magazines, even though they're taking steroids and all this stuff, the way they get to look like that, you know what kind of cardio they do? They put a treadmill on a 5% incline, they walk on it for 40 minutes. They don't run, they don't do sprints, they don't do anything like that. They walk on that thing for 40 minutes because those guys are too big. They're too big to be like running out like Ben Johnson or Carl Lewis or doing any kind of stuff like that. They're too big. So walking can absolutely produce results when it comes under the right context. So.
And Rita, you're probably looking for practical example, like on the watermelon and all that. The reason is too, it's high glycemic. Those types of foods will spike up blood sugar. So for a season, you might need to avoid those types of foods. Can you work on your reports with your phone with voice texting and then put it together later? Do you have to be sitting all the time? Another thing is, I've got a desk I can show you that you can prop up and you can actually stand as you're working, do core stabilization training, burn calories while you're standing, calf raises, whatever, you can with a stand-up desk. But what he's talking about is a deficit. You're probably like, okay, how do I create a deficit? Well, if you grab the book, What Works When Diets Don't, it's got a whole chart. You need to find out how many calories you're using a day. If you're using only 1,500 calories a day and you're consuming 1,800, the bottom line is you've got too much energy going in. So you will have to create a deficit in that area. So creating a deficit, moving more, eating the right types of foods, and slowly working into it will probably be the best solution for now.
I know I have a lot of excuses because of my ankle. I had a surgery and I've had a lot of problems the past 4 years. But I know I can exercise other ways without using my feet. I just need to, fight that. Oh, you can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's leather. I'm a huge fan of kettlebells. Kettlebells are best cardio you'll ever get, and you don't move an inch. So, it's low impact and things. So there's absolutely other ways to do it. There's rowing machines, cycling, things like that. Just get creative. And at the end of the day, too, exercise is really just activity. So whatever you like doing, and this is for anybody in the audience, exercise doesn't mean I'm on the treadmill or I'm on the bike. If you like basketball, go play basketball.
Is it cleaning the house?
Yes.
I do a lot of that.
Anything can become intense
Absolutely.
exercise. Do it for time. Say, okay, it took me 20 minutes to clean the house. I'm going to go for 15 this time. You will move faster and just make it a challenge.
Yeah, do so. Any more questions? Okay. You guys can go behind her. People were asking me out in the lobby. Now's your chance. There we go.
Okay, I have 2 questions. And I want to ask the first one now because I don't want to forget. What was that stuff in the bowl back there that looked like a carrot, but it was purple on the outside and yellow on the inside?
You have to ask my daughter.
That was good.
Oh, okay.
Carrots actually
Oh.
Oh yeah, carrots become purple.
Oh, Trader Joe's? Okay, well, I'm going to get
All
those.
right,
Okay, that wasn't my
what's the
real
next one?
question. Okay. For the last couple of years, and it's just started last year, I got this eczema-like thing on my arm, and it took maybe, I don't know, a month, 2 months to go away, and I put lotion on it and everything, and I was thinking, well, maybe it was something I ate, because I've never had it before, but I was going through this whole sinus infection thing. I ended up having to have surgery on my sinuses. Nothing would work. They did the antibiotics, the steroids, the everything. And before I had all that stuff, I started developing the eczema. So I was wondering, is the sinus stuff and the eczema, because I just broke out with it again a few weeks ago, and it's starting to heal. Is that diet related?
I'll let Tony on this one, but absolutely, in my opinion.
You know, there's something called dysbiosis, and it has to do with your gut. A lot of skin conditions and allergies and chronic infections has to do with the war in our gut. We have good bacteria in our gut, and we have bad bacteria in our gut.
Right.
And certain foods and nutrients will feed the bad. And what happens is when your body is under stress, it needs more nutrients. It needs more clean foods. And so when you said you were on antibiotics, that could very easily disturb that balance. And so I know for myself and for my children and other people, we've corrected that with fixing our guts. So one thing I want to point out is to mention to you is something called psyllium husk. It's very gelatinous, and it's not absorbable, but what it does is it pulls out all the gram-negative bacteria as lipopolysaccharides. It just pulls them all out of the gut, and it makes it easier on your immune system to relax. If you stay on that for a week, you'll see a lot of improvement in your skin.
And it's called what?
It's called psyllium husk.
Spell with a P. Starts
It's
with a
PS, right? PSY, I think L-L-I-U-M, psyllium husk.
Can I get that on Amazon?
You can get it on Amazon, yeah. Just start off slow because it's very dry, and it'll swell. It's very gelatinous, so it'll swell up and go to about 10 times its weight with water. And just mix a teaspoon into water a day, and just drink it fast, because as it thickens, and it's hard to swallow. So
And it's a fiber?
You could get it.
It is a fiber.
You could get the whole weedery under raw cleanse. It comes in a little thing, and you add it, but it tastes terrible. So you got to mix it with some orange juice or something.
It's not that bad, but
I just do a shot of it,
yeah, just shoot it fast, and chase it down with something, maybe orange juice a little bit.
And is that something that would be good to do every day?
Regularly. It'll lower cholesterol levels, because these gram-negative bacteria, their actual outer membranes are toxic. And so what happens is we're actually getting poisoned from the inside out. So it's one thing to have a clean diet and eat right, but if you have a disturbance in that ratio, and you're not having enough fiber to take that stuff off, it's, that, and like Shane said about probiotics, is eating sauerkraut, different things that are whole and natural.
I do that. I like
but not the
sauerkraut.
not the conventional type of stuff. The homemade stuff is the best you can do, and it's really easy to make sauerkraut at home.
There's one in Costco that does have the fermented stuff, and it does have all the probiotics in it.
Nice.
So I do.
And like you said, the reason disease often starts in the gut is because that's where the food goes. That's where it's broken down. That's where it's assimilated. That's where the nutrients are released. That's where the enzymes come in and break it down. So that's the battleground. So you need the proper nutrients to properly assimilate the food. And the good bacteria, the bad bacteria, probiotics, that's what probiotics are. The reason antibiotics, we don't recommend them very often, is because they kill everything, including the good and the bad. So mainly, I would recommend on not every cold, every this, and maybe in your case you did. We've had to do it before, but we've also killed it through colloidal silver, echinacea, elderberry, natural things too. But probiotics are natural, good bacteria that actually go in and they fight help the fight. So that's why disease starts in the gut.
This was the antibiotics. I mean, I rarely, I took more antibiotics this last year than I have in my whole entire life combined. So I mean, it was a bad thing up here. But
yeah, and keep in mind, though, skin breakout can also be a result of toxicity. The body will release through the skin, through the nasal, you mentioned the sinuses. That's your body a way of releasing toxins too. So I mean, I would recommend even fasting and getting the diet cleaned up and seeing a lot of benefits.
And the psyllium husk stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Fasting would be huge.
Yeah, fasting would be huge. that Stacy?
It is.
Okay.
I was going to say something about the psyllium. We actually feed psyllium to horses, and it picks up the sand in their bellies and takes it out, so it's really beneficial, yeah. My question is about as we get older and our hormones change, women, we go through menopause, everything in your body is different. Makes it hard to lose weight. It makes, your bone density changes. And what are some things we can do to help?
Maybe we can each chime in a little bit. Start with Tony, Luke, and just make it.
There are some really awesome phytochemicals for that are known to help women, like sage. Sage is really good. A lady that I know had really bad hot flashes just all the time, and she started drinking sage tea. And it really helped her. All the hot flashes went away. Her hormones started to become balanced. But a lot of it has to do with cholesterol too, because cholesterol is the main metabolite that gets converted into our hormones. So, if you do a panel on yourself, just make sure that you have enough cholesterol. And if it's 220 or below, that's fine. If they say it's too high, over 200, it's really not. But if you run a good panel, you can see where the blocks are. But just a natural thing like sage tea will really help you if you just take it daily. Maybe once in the morning, once at night, it would really help.
Okay.
And then, let me go, and then Luke can go to finish. I would also everything. I don't know where your diet's at too, but everything I talked about, when people are applying that, even in their 50 and above, they begin to see dramatic results in their hormone levels, men's testosterone, their growth hormone levels. The women's estrogen is controlled by taking care of the body, moving more, losing the weight, detoxing. It all works together to put the body back in a healthy state too. So I would incorporate that.
I think also just to complement what these two said, anabolic exercise. And some of you may, especially if you're a woman, you're going, oh, you're like, what's that? But basically, with respect to bone density in particular, osteoporosis plagues our women, especially our senior women. And ladies, do your deadlifts. Like, I'm not kidding, Learn to pick stuff off the ground in a healthy way and get strong at it. If you can pick your body weight up, I don't care what else happened to you the rest of your life, your skeleton's not going to fall apart when you're 80, 90 years old.
Well, you know what, Luke? You made a good point yesterday. He knows, if you say a 90-year-old, 80-year-old man, if he starts doing 10, 15 squats, 20 squats a day, you know what a squat is, right? Just a squat. And you keep that muscular strength going. You do those squats at 65, 70, 75, 80, 85. You can still squat and get up, and you keep that momentum going. You keep that movement going because your body's being built. So that was a good point.
A lot of that too is don't think necessarily in short-term, big chunk stuff. That's the way our society is kind of wired. But think really long term. With respect to diet, you don't have to hit your calories every single day. Think of weekly averages or even monthly averages or things like that. With respect to movement, getting up, and I'm just going to do a few of these every day. Fellas, if you don't want hip surgery, get good at this. Do 10 of them a day when you get up in the morning. You will be able to get up off the toilet by yourself when you're 90 years old. Simple things like that. You don't have to be a Hulk, and you don't have to be a gym idolatrist or anything like that. You can do very simple things like that to promote healthy posture, bone density, retaining muscle tissue, all those kinds of things with simple movement strategies every day.
Yeah, okay. Then Diane, you're next. Oh, do you have another one, Stacey? I'm sorry.
I do, just real quick. Shopping. You talk about buying, organic and grass-fed, good meat, whole wheatery, Trader Joe's. We don't have a lot of options out here.
I sometimes go to Sprouts or the Whole Foods in Valencia. But those two usually have the veggies, the fruit, the meat, not much raw dairy, but you can usually find most of them. And actually, I probably should clarify this. We keep talking about calories and deficits. In order to lose weight, I don't care what diet it is, you have to burn more than you are consuming. It's just a mathematical impossibility. So you have to know, Veronica, Bill, Chris, whoever you are, how many calories does my body burn a day? So that's in my book, What Works When Diets Don't. It's all free. It's got a chart. And people kind of, they'll say, well, it's a calorie counting diet. And I want to clarify, I'm not into calorie counting as a solution for our problems. However, you got to know that a banana has 120 and that big piece of hamburger has 1,100. You got to know and educate yourself. If I'm consuming this much energy, I better burn this much energy and more. And I'll talk about basal metabolic rate. You know, Luke and Tony probably burn more calories sitting here than I do, because it just, as I get older. And then activity, so you can factor in how much energy you need to start burning. It actually becomes motivating. Okay, I'm eating 1,500. I'm going to park over by the gym at the mall and walk all the way over to the mall and walk back. And you start thinking now energy expenditure. You start thinking now moving versus how close can I get to the parking spot? How close convenient? How, standing as opposed to sitting burns so many more calories. Because your body, your core stabilization, your core is holding everything together. So that's what I meant by calories. Don't get caught up in it, but you got to know, am I consuming more than I'm taking in? And then Diane, basically at the store, Stacy, you just stay away from the middle. Just go around and get the God-given, even organic and not necessarily good. I can get organic cheese crackers, and they've got ingredients list this long. So it's just
Organic birthday cake.
Organic birthday cake. Okay. And our organic, by the way, to me just means the way God designed it. It's not new agey. It's not some phrase. It's just unaltered, untouched. Like the Lowers, some of them are here, Jake and Craig and Rachel, and we go to their house and had some goat's milk, right from the goat. I mean, talk about, that's how it's supposed to be, raw goat's milk. I mean, that's how God created it. That's what I mean by organic, untouched. So, okay. Sorry, Diane.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out what your opinion is on soy. A lot of times there's the soy protein in the bars and stuff, and what your opinion is on that. And also what you think about eating a raw organic egg in like your smoothie or a protein shake. Because I do that. I mean, not the egg lately, but, or even like in a salad dressing, and find out if that's okay or if that's because it's a raw egg.
Right.
But I always do the organic, so.
You might have three different thoughts on soy and stuff, but why don't we do Tony, me, Luke, in order?
So soy was the first genetically modified crop. And genetically modified, it means that it's been modified to actually produce the pesticide from the inside out. So it's more resistant. So when these insects and these bugs eat it, they actually die from poisoning from the inside out. So whatever soy you use, just make sure that it's non-GMO, because it can actually be very toxic for you. Secondly, it's very high in phytoestrogens. So you're going to be putting a lot of very similar structure estrogen into your body from that plant. So just be aware of that. But in regards to soy, it's actually really good for you and helpful for you. Another thing that can go for menopause is a lot of soy as well because of the phytoestrogen. But in regards to the egg thing, I think it's great. I think it's great as long as it's free range, organic egg, and it hasn't been out too long. I'm talking over a month or something like that. But yeah.
And my thought's probably similar. Actually, my friend, he's a PhD, and he does splice wheat. And he with GMO, he tells me that what Tony's talking about is they'll find pesticide, what kills the insects, and they'll actually splice that into the gene of the wheat. So the wheat grows with that pesticide already in it. That's GMO, genetically modified organisms. Avoid the salmon, avoid the meat, try to avoid those. But like Tony's, soy is God-given. It's a soybean. The huge craze in soy is what did some harm because it wasn't organic. It was genetically modified, and people went crazy. Soy ice cream, soy milk, soy this, soy bread, soy tofu in my salad, and they had too much, which goes back to that element in it that produces. Actually, does it produce estrogen? So your body secretes more estrogen.
It'll bind at the same receptors.
So they're finding that boys on high soy had too high levels of estrogen in their body, but because the soy craze. Remember soy cheese, everything. So if you can find soy, organic soy, unaltered from a soybean, in moderation, it's fine. The egg, the raw, anything with, you can actually eat fish raw, right? It's called sushi, and eggs and things, you can't eat them raw. There's a risk obviously involved. But the raw that you're talking about, like Tony said, it's an organic, free range. The reason they put cage free means they're not sticking a little cage. They're running all around. But if you don't get organic, the feed they could be consuming could be GMO corn that the chicken is consuming. So you're getting that in the egg still. So I know it's complicated. This is all money driven, basically. So if you can get organic, cage-free, clean eggs, and you eat it in a raw state, I wouldn't be opposed to that because I don't know if you realize or not, but we eat a lot of bacteria that's not good all the time. Your toothbrush is a very bad spot for it in bathrooms. And so our body, though, is wonderfully and masterfully made, and in the digestive system, the gut where it starts, is able to kill that bacteria. So raw isn't really the problem often. It's the state of the body that's not able to fight that disease. So I would recommend that a raw egg would be fine.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, one thing to remember with respect to, in particular, soy, wheat, dairy, and corn, at least in the Western world, is those are all commercial foods or crops. And so a lot of what they're mass-produced, and when they're mass-produced, they're produced in ways that are cheap, not necessarily good. So it's not necessarily, a lot of people make blanket statements about soy, wheat, dairy, or corn. It's not necessarily that soy, wheat, dairy, or corn in and of itself is bad, but it may be that the strain from which it's coming from is bad over here. Very cheap versions of that food that are heavily laden with drugs or pesticides or things like that. And the other thing too is because they're mass-produced, companies, after they get rid of the main food, they have a lot of industrial waste left over. So all these high fructose corn syrups, if you're going to get a whey protein powder or a soy protein powder, for example, be very careful when you pick it, because if you ever wonder, well, how can they produce so much of this stuff? It seems like every company and their mother is producing a version of those kinds of products these days. It's because they're industrial waste products. There are companies that they literally have, we have all this left over after we made milk or tofu or things like this, and we sell it off to somebody for pennies on the dollar, and they go make a protein powder out of it, and they sell it to you, telling you it's good for you and all this stuff. And it's just cheap industrial waste. You don't need it. It's somebody else's trash. Just let it go, put it back in the ground, and use it for fertilizer or something like that. So with soy, wheat, dairy, corn, things like that, get it non-GMO, get it organic. And because a lot of the criticisms that are being leveled at commercial soy can also be leveled at commercial dairy, commercial wheat, commercial corn, all of that stuff as far as estrogen content and how it screws up your hormones and things like that. And the other thing too is that when you get it in real food, you don't get it in hyper concentrations like you do with industrial waste products. And so when you get it in a package where it's a part of carbs, fats, proteins, other vitamins and minerals and water, now it's diluted in amongst the other nutrients, and it's not hyper concentrated anymore. And a lot of the studies that show that these particular foods cause cancer or things like that, usually it's done on X isolate, or things like that. So it's industrial waste leftovers that are hyper concentrated. So
yeah, that's good.
Unless you have a particular aversion to some kind of food, that's just kind of the general principle to remember.
Okay.
So in general, you would, if you see something, you see a protein bar and the first ingredient is soy protein isolate, would that be a thumbs up or thumbs down?
I tend to stay away from soy protein isolate just because it's an isolate. I would do the same thing for whey. I don't have dairy in my diet, but if I did, I would stay away from whey isolate. Anything that's isolate or concentrate or things like that, it's hyper concentrated industrial waste. That's almost a dead giveaway anytime you see stuff like that. So stay with a full version of it. Have tofu in your salad. It's not a big deal. Or have whole versions of, I guess the lights didn't
Somebody hit the lights, Jake.
The lights didn't like having tofu in their salad.
Susie
Anyway, but just look for fuller expressions of food and not isolated nutrients would be the takeaway.
So, yeah, basically it's pretty limited. I've got some good green bars that you might want to look at, just the box that they came in. But you've got to be a smart consumer. for
Right.
sure.
Yeah, I love bars because they're convenient, but I'm a
lot of them have
a label reader.
a lot of hidden sugar, a lot of stuff that's just not good.
Right, right. Great. Thank you.
If you're in a deficit, one thing too, if you're in a deficit, you can get away with more stuff like that because your body's going to burn through it anyway. That's not licensed to have that stuff, but if you want to be a little bit more of a trash compactor with stuff like that, if you're in an overall deficit long term, you'll burn through it anyway, so it's less damaging. In a nutshell, like if he had 3 Krispy Kreme donuts this morning, it's not going to affect him the way it might affect somebody who has, more unhealthy. Yes. Right? I might be in the bathroom after that. Okay. We'll see. Okay, go ahead.
Hi. A little history. I've been suffering with diabetes for about 16 years. And about 3 years ago, I just got energized to just start eating right and working out. And I did it with a group of my friends. And I mean, I was going hard. And I was lifting weights, I was running, I was everything. But I noticed that they were losing weight, and I wasn't. And I lost probably I did lose 40 pounds, but I just stayed there. And I was working out almost every day, and my insulin levels dropped. They became normal, but I still was taking the insulin, but I wasn't losing any weight. Okay. So I got discouraged, and I did that for 2 years. And
is it type 1 or type 2?
Type 2.
Type 2, okay.
And so then I got discouraged, and I stopped working out for a year. I'm in this year mark now, today. And I've gained the weight back. And I was like, okay, Lord, you told me you were going to heal me of diabetes. Tell me what I need to do. And I've tried everything. I do have a sugar tooth, a sweet tooth. But when I was diagnosed with diabetes, I was fit. I was healthy, and they said it could have been brought on by stress. And I was eating. I ate healthy as well. So anyway, now I'm on this thing where I'm going to start working out. It brought me here. My friend invited me because I've been on the internet researching things, learning about the olive leaf extract, learning about the what you just said about oregano oil. Oil of oregano, yeah. And also, I'm right now 35% food grade peroxide. I've been taking that and taking 1 drop with a 8-ounce thing of water in the morning, and then I take it at night before I go to bed, and then I increase it. You're supposed to do it for 24 days, and you add a drop each day. Some people do it 3 times a day. I do it twice a day. Okay. I've noticed that my sugar levels have dropped because I had really just got discouraged where I just stopped taking my medicine, stopped doing anything. Well, anyway, God was like, that's not going to work because I got really sick. And God, he was telling me, he was like, no, you can't just cold turkey quit taking insulin. You have to get off of it slowly.
Taper, yeah.
Yeah. So when he told me that, I got back on it about 2 weeks ago, and I started taking the food grade peroxide. I noticed I have a lot of energy. My insulin level, my sugar levels have dropped tremendously. It went from 400, now I wake up with 129, and I noticed that, that I'm having hunger pains. I didn't have hunger pains before when I took it. And now I wake up hungry, and I know if I eat something that's not healthy, I get sick.
Right.
Because I'm taking this. So I wanted to know your opinion on the peroxide, the 35 food grade.
Is it like hydrogen peroxide?
Hydrogen peroxide, 35 food grade,
okay.
percent food grade.
I'll let Tony.
Well, I ordered it online, and you have to dilute it with water. You can't take it. So you dilute it to make it 3%.
Okay. So you want to kind of get some motivation to go back in the right direction, which you are.
Yeah.
And the thoughts on that, let me just say this before I forget. Don't get discouraged when your body stops losing weight. It's called a plateau. It's your body's adapting to what you're doing, and it's actually God-given because it starts to adapt. Oh, Shane's only taking 1,200 calories nowadays. I'm going to decrease his basal metabolic rate in order to accommodate his lower caloric intake. So your body's actually designed by God to go into a plateau, to adjust. You just need to break through that plateau. And if you guys get the free copies, I don't mean to keep promoting a book, but grab it because it talks about breaking plateaus. Like Luke said, if you're walking, you add that 10% element of it. Now your body's adjusting to a newer workload. It's not used to the type of, so you just need to break out of that plateau. And actually fasting is the best way to break out of a plateau because your body goes, uh-oh, I now got to go into fat reserves as fuel, and things start to change. And the hydrogen peroxide, apple cider vinegar, the oil of oregano, the Master Cleanse. We all have to remember that there isn't a magic bullet to take something. These things can be supplements, but nothing will do better than getting on a good God-given diet, even what they call intermittent fasting. If you can't do days, most people can work up to 24-hour or 16-hour, where it's called intermittent fasting, where you shock your body into stopping the caloric intake, and that can help a lot of those things. But on the hydrogen peroxide, I'll see if Tony knows, because I don't think I wouldn't recommend that approach.
Well, because I've done the research on some things, and I've noticed that some of the people that they've given testimony, they said that it's cured cancer, because the body diseases cannot live in an oxygenated body. Yeah. Also, there's testimony on curing herpes and HIV and other things, and I start taking it because of the diabetes. And when I've noticed that my sugar levels have dropped tremendously, and I have a lot of energy now, and so. Yeah,
if it's working for you and it's natural, dilute in water. But I wouldn't use that as the
base
as the main source. Any thoughts on that?
Hydrogen peroxide is highly oxidative, and our white blood cells actually produce it to kill infections. Mm-hmm. So they'll surround them and engulf them in hydrogen peroxide to just emulsify them. Mm-hmm. But taking it internally, it reacts with an enzyme called catalase, and catalase is one of our main antioxidants above glutathione. And so when you're consistently flooding your body with hydrogen peroxide, it's going to oxidize with that catalase, just like if you have a wound and you put hydrogen peroxide on it, it bubbles and fizzes?
Yes.
It's reacting with the enzyme catalase in the blood. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically breaking down that enzyme, and you need that enzyme because it's crucial. It's one of God's given antioxidants that the body produces naturally. So if you keep flooding your system for it, you're actually going to tip the scales to where you're going to create this imbalance to where it's a highly oxidative state. So it could actually start to hurt you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll kill cancer, it'll go after those different things, but you're flooding the system with it. But at the same time, it's not going to be balanced for you. So for type 2 diabetes, I wouldn't use that as your source to getting better. I would have your doctor measure your adiponectin levels, because usually when the body plateaus, the adiponectin level drops. And when that level drops, the metabolic rate slows down. So it's almost like a T3 hormone, but when adiponectin drops, it actually comes more from the gut. Mm-hmm. So there's different things you can do to change that from the inside out without putting a highly oxidative chemical in your body.
So what's the difference between the leaf extract, the olive oil leaf extract, and the, because they said they react the same way.
Well, olive leaf extract is a God-given phytochemical, so it reacts differently in the fact that the body has to produce it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It has to produce out of that chemical what it needs. So the phytochemical will go in and do what it does, but it's actually an antioxidant, not a pro-oxidant. Mm-hmm. So it's actually working to help build your body up versus break it down.
Okay.
So, I mean, but like you said, if it's working for you and you're doing research and you feel good about it, you're praying, continue the drops now and then, but the overall, everything I just talked about, basically, incorporate those things to really go at the diabetes and get back on track. Don't let the plateau knock you off course.
Okay, thank you.
If I could speak to just the exercise portion a little bit, use your question as a little bit of a segue maybe to some concerns that people have privately, but a lot of people, they go in and they get really enthusiastic about training. I'm doing 6-7 days a week. Mm-hmm. You might be doing too much. Mm-hmm. most people don't need to do. Again, it depends if you're going to a gym, if you're going to a facility, or if you're a runner or a cyclist or whatever, and your training is based on, say, 45 minutes to an hour at any given time, you probably don't need to do more than 3 days a week. Professional athletes that are doing 6 days a week, twice a day and stuff like that are usually on some sort of illegal recovery mechanisms, and so that gets pushed down to us. We just got to train like Rocky and push through all the time and stuff like that, and your body grows and it adapts when you're at rest. You break your body down during training and then you rest and recover. So to get the most out of your efforts with respect to physical exercise, don't be emotionally led when you're doing any kind of physical activity. Fat loss, and if I may real quick, Shane was talking about weight loss plateaus. Don't focus on weight, focus on body fat, because you may have lost 5 pounds of body fat, but now because you've been in a deficit for a while, your body's storing 10 pounds of water. So you go out and you have a big bowl of rice or something like that, and your body's like, hey, there's food coming, and you pee all the water out, and it's like, I just lost 20 pounds overnight, and it's not, that's more complex than that. So your body gets a little strung out when there's food not coming in and stuff. So don't focus just on weight, focus on the quality of that weight. But with respect to, I say that just to say that fat loss is a numbers game, body composition is a numbers game, and training progress is a numbers game too. For example, if the most of my training these days is based around one exercise with a given variant, I don't worry about the quantity of different exercises. I worry about the quantity that I'm putting out with one exercise. So if I had all the men in this room say, if they came to me and they said, I want to get stronger, I want to be more muscular, I want to be healthy, I want to raise my testosterone or something, okay, what's your deadlift? Oh, my deadlift is 95 pounds or something like that. Okay, I'm going to take your deadlift and we're going to train it a couple times a week and we're going to get it up to 405. You're going to be more muscular, you're going to be stronger, you're going to be better posture because that's the type of the exercise that a deadlift is, and you're going to be efficient in your efforts in the gym. So you don't need to go in there and be emotionally, I think I need to do arms today, I think I need to do legs today, I think I need to do shoulders today. You have objectivity in your training, so that way it's not about just what's up here. So that way when the days come when it's like, I don't feel like it, if you know and you just hit a number that day, I pick up X amount of weight this day, I've made progress. Progress drives physical change. Physical fitness can be quantified very easy of just thinking of the formula for work. Work equals force times distance over time. And basically you can break that down into sets and reps and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if your body is capable of doing more work, you are more physically fit. Depending on the adaptation that you want, maybe you're a runner and not a strength athlete, you would do running versus strength stuff. Right, okay. But at the end of the day, it's your body's ability to do work that's represented in how your body adapts. So maybe back off to just 2 or even 3 days a week and really get objective in saying, what is it that I want to achieve? Do I want to put on more muscle mass? Do I want to lose more weight? Do I want to promote healthier posture and healthier joints and things like that? What is it that you want to do? And then get more streamlined in picking the modes that you're going to explore with respect to cultivating those things.
David, what about you? Do you have a question too? Yes. Or Morgan, were you?
Well, yeah. Sorry, David. I just want to add for her also, because my antennas went up when you said you had a sweet tooth, because that's what one of my biggest struggles is. And Shane had mentioned earlier about being able to change your the taste buds changing and changing your palate and your desires. I went on a 30-day fast from sugar, and it was hard. It was, ups and downs the first week. It got easier. By the end of that 30 days, things didn't even sound good. I mean, I went to bed on the, no, it was 40 days. I went to bed on the 39th day, and I'm like, or on the 40th day, and I'm like, tomorrow's the 41st day. I can, I'm going to wake up and go get whatever drink I want at Starbucks or this or that. And I was so excited. I set my alarm for the morning. I'm going to get, it's my first one in 40 days. I woke up and didn't even want it. So if you can get yourself on a fast saying, okay, I'm going to go this amount of days, at least 30 probably, to give your body time. At the end of that, you may find that curbs your sugar cravings. But it's torture the first week, so be careful.
And just so people know too, often a sweet tooth means also the body is still starving for nutrients it didn't receive throughout the day. You know, if I have a huge salad, and I'm talking about cut up bell peppers, cut up cucumbers, cut up tomatoes, cut up avocado, you know, a little bit of chicken on it, you know, the sweet tooth isn't as, it's almost like if you eat sugar throughout the day, then you want it again at night. It's almost like you're feeding that desire. So you can really starve that desire, like Morgan said too, went back to healthy eating. David, sorry.
That's right. I just, first of all, before I get into my question, I would like to piggyback on what you've said tonight and been saying about fasting, that I wasn't really consciously looking for losing weight. I was fasting for the spiritual reasons that, you know, God says we're supposed to, and to get closer to Him, and He's done pretty much miraculous things through fasting. Amen. And getting prepared for being baptized, which I was last Sunday, and I think the enemy would have had me come up with more excuses to put it off if it wasn't for fasting. And yeah. I mean, I could talk, you know, till the sun goes down about all the benefits of fasting, and anyways, but a side benefit is I've lost 70 pounds, and that's primarily from fasting.
Wow.
From my high.
70?
70,
70.
Right? 70, yeah. Wow. That's good. And that's a good point you brought up, because I don't want people to be left with fasting really, when I do, it's not for weight loss. That's the byproduct. It's
icing on the cake.
You know, that's the icing on it. Because anything you do spiritually that has benefit also has physical benefits. So if you're going, I'm going to fast, I would seek God, I would pray, and then have the weight loss will become part of the benefit of fasting and seeking God. But I'm sorry, did you have a question though on?
Yes, I'd like to speak on, or have your opinion on your alkalinity of the body as far as eating healthy. I know, because if you eat fruits and vegetables, all the things that are good, and not meat in excess, you're going to have more of a higher pH, which is healthier, and your body's going to be more resistant to disease and cancer and those type of things. And if you have acidic, low pH, your body, whether you test you can find that out by getting strips at Whole Wheat or something, test strips for your urine or saliva. But anyways, acidic, you're more resistant to disease, like drinking lots of coffee, red meats all the time. And one thing that I've done to increase my pH is through drinking alkaline water. And there's different places to buy it, but you have to ease into it and start at lower levels, because it does detox your body, and you can have all these symptoms of the detox. Like I went too fast too soon, where I started having rash, feeling like I have the flu, and headache, and all these things. But I've been on that, and my pH has raised, and I know that you should do it with your whole body, eating healthy, and it'll help your pH level. Right. But like one thing I did to kickstart it, I've done for years now, is go over to Aloha Pure Water in the Lancaster Marketplace, mom and pop store. And let me share an example about how alkaline water, I saw with my own two eyes. Somebody who had a whole laundry list of health problems. Okay, just basically he was healed, from osteoarthritis, rheumatoid, gout, kidney disease, diabetes, all improved through him raising his pH levels from being a proverbial old man to store owner, put his feet up like that. So my question is, what is your expert opinion on pH levels?
Well, if you don't know what he's talking about the body's either in an acidic state or an alkaline state. The thought is cancer only. Cancer needs two things to grow. It needs oxygen. It needs food. I mean, anybody will tell you that's a physician. So the alkaline state, like coffee, bad food, it puts your body in that acidic, toxic state, where then God-given foods, if you look at, all the foods that promote a high pH balance, where the acidity rate is much lower. It's alkaline, I believe they call it, right? A high alkaline state. So all the God-given foods, eating healthy, it puts your body in an alkaline state. So I think there's truth to it. I just don't. It's funny, the guy who gets high alkaline water but still has a terrible diet. The good water isn't going to offset the bad diet. So I think there's something to it personally. If you eat bad food, acidic food, and it would feed the disease. But if you're eating healthy food that puts you in a higher pH balance level, then that is going to be more for restorative healing and health. So I wouldn't get too caught up in it, I guess, is my thought. But eating good and taking care of your body automatically does that.
Right. I know, because I had osteomyelitis, which is an infection, and avascular necrosis, where I was off an ankle for 8 months, not able to walk, wheelchair mainly. And avascular necrosis just means the blood wasn't going there, so bone and whatever is all dying.
Right.
And for myself, I can tell I was unable to walk around much at all for long distances, or I'm not supposed to wear dress shoes. A lot of times I do. I just didn't today. But anyways, I was able to take, with drinking alkaline water, I was able to take, being overweight, way overweight, like I told you, close to 70 pounds at that time, good. Taking martial arts, jumping around, kicking, and I could go all through the training and no problems. When I was off the alkaline water, I could just barely get through it. So I know personal testimony that there's something to it with the alkaline water. Also ionic, which means it has a negative charge, like you have static electricity. Right. It only lasts for a little bit. The water, you get kind of ionic state, negatively charged, helps detox your body. And the sooner you drink it, the better, because after 3 days, it's pretty much gone down to zero. Right. And also, like somebody is just asking me about starting back working out. You're sore? No. Because lactic acid is an acidic thing. If your body's acidic, right. I don't have that when drinking the water.
Okay.
So,
I totally agree. And Fred, who actually owns that, died of cancer. Fred passed away. So I don't know, but his diet wasn't, well, I shouldn't even get into that. So my point was to just don't trust in that alone.
Right.
But yeah, take it, do it. I think I don't have any problem with it. I think it's good. Putting your body in an alkaline state. It's definitely good. Is there any questions after David? I know we went way past.
Could I make a
absolutely.
comment?
And if there's any more statements, stand behind David so we know. We're just real pressed for time.
Assuming we don't have any more questions, one thing, not so much that I want to point out for our live audience here, but for our live stream audience, we probably have people watching this on the internet that are thinking vegan, paleo, all these other things and stuff. And if you spend any time in the secular world or on the internet, you will see how inflammatory the discussions are between those groups and the people who hang out with those ideologies. We are not label chasers up here. We do have probably 3 separate personal convictions with respect to food. We have a lot of the same things in common, but with respect to our food and our food production and stuff, I think we each 3 practice different ways. If you're interested in learning that, come talk to us individually after this is over. This isn't about that. But the thing that I want to harp on most importantly is that we're brothers in Christ and we're united by the Holy Spirit. And our unity is not through our food choices. Our unity is through the redemptive blood that he shed for us. And Paul, I think, articulates, if you're thinking about, well, does the Bible forbid me from eating meat, or does it say that I have to eat it and I'm mandated to eat it or whatever? Paul lays it out very clearly in Romans 14. If you have any questions about your personal conviction with respect to food, read Romans 14, because he spells it out pretty clearly. He says that we should not cause our brother to stumble. And so if you have a brother who feels differently from you, don't cause your brother to stumble. Seek unity first. And he says that whatever is not of faith is sin, so that make sure that whatever you're doing with respect to this area is from your faith and it's not being led by your flesh. But that being said, in spite of the differences that we may have, these 2 gentlemen are my brothers and I love them dearly. And I would take a bullet for them because we are united by the same Holy Spirit, and the thing that makes us who we are is Christ's work that he's done for us, not our personal food choices.
I would like to thank you. Yes, very much. Well said. That's why we're here, because of God, to glorify him and to be here with brothers and sisters, building each other up. But I'd like to respond that Fred moved into a local retirement community, and he was not drinking alkaline water when he died. But I saw the quality of life. Remember, bent over old man, barely moved to almost for old man, sprinting back and forth across his store, kicking his leg up on top of the counter, primarily from the alkaline water. So
no, I agree. I don't want anybody. I think it's great. I see a lot of people with alkaline water with their Western double bacon cheeseburger.
Exactly right.
Thinking that's the it's not gonna. You can't just trust in the alkaline water. It's good. I have it. I have it in my office. I have it at home. I have it. I just didn't want people to think it's a miracle cure. But I totally agree with what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I appreciate what you've done here. I think you need to do more of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Morgan, did you have a question? Anybody else?
Last thing, just wanted everyone to know you can thank Aubrey for providing your healthy snacks.
All right. Oh, yes. Yes, there's an 8-week, we're going to put together an 8-week follow-up group if you want to sign up for that in the lobby. And if you have questions, we can pray with you afterwards. Tony, where he's at, where Luke's at. Like Luke said, we do have different diet guidelines. We look at, I think when you pray and seek God, you will have different, you're going to feel differently about things. So come forward if you have any questions. We'll be out there, and if you need prayer, let us know, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow morning, right? The sermon won't be as long tomorrow morning. It'll be a shorter one. Thank you, guys. We'll see you then.